And then they were saying that the chicken was oh, hello. I'm Brian. Here's Amber. And here's some Reddit. Our first story of the evening is titled, Am I a jerk for telling my daughter that she's crazy for not being over guys from her past? My daughter is 24 years old, and she is currently dating a new guy who is marriage material and extremely good for her. He treats her super well, and I really like the young man. My daughter, however, blames her anxiety for a bad moral compass. She has dated some guys in the past who ended up hurting her or who were jerks to her. But despite being with a good guy now, I have come to find out that she is still a bit fixated on these guys from her past. I looked at her social media accounts and see these guys in her search history and have come to find out that she constantly checks up on them and their girlfriends on all platforms. It seems like she has an obsession with keeping tabs on them. She has fake Instagram accounts where she views their girlfriend stories to see what's going on. Last year, she dated unofficially one guy for a couple months who was a complete jerk to her, and he has tried to reach out to her multiple times over the past few months. She has ignored him out of respect for her current boyfriend, but I saw her texts to her friends saying that it stirred up feelings for her. The worst thing I found out about lately was that she has made some fake dating app profiles with some girl's picture to match with this guy from her past and talk to him to see what he's been up to. This was the final straw for me, so I confronted her. When we got into a huge fight and I told her that her behavior is completely unhinged and asked why she's been doing this kind of stuff. She got really upset and told me that she doesn't know what's wrong with her and that she can't control it and that she wants to get on anxiety medication to stop the ruminations about her past. I told her to stop blaming her psycho behavior on her anxiety, and she hasn't spoken to me in a few days. My husband said I was a jerk and handled the whole situation poorly. Am I a jerk?
Yes.
No, I mean, it's perfectly reasonable to spy on people, isn't it? I mean, sure, you gotta do whatever you gotta do to keep tabs on your daughter who's keeping tabs on everyone else. I mean, how else are you supposed to keep tabs on your daughter's activities without following up behind her and like checking on all of her social media accounts and, you know, going behind her and looking up all these different things and checking her phone for texts and stuff like that? That seems perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, I feel like the entire title of the post is a complete misnomer. The issue here is that you are checking your daughter's search history, going through all her accounts, looking at who she's messaging, looking at all her profiles on everything, finding her fake profiles, and you wonder where she gets this behavior from.
Well, the crazy thing here is that she can't see how what she is doing is so similar to what her daughter is doing.
Yeah.
It's like, you both need to go into counseling here.
Yeah.
Maybe group therapy. I don't know, but something here, because both of their behaviors, I think, are really unhealthy.
Right.
Well, I mean, I think that both of their behaviors are unhealthy, and I think that they need to kind of at least with the daughter, she recognizes that something's wrong here.
Yeah.
But the mom doesn't seem to think that there's anything wrong here, which is
right.
the worst part about this is she thinks what she's doing is completely justified, whereas the daughter's at least yeah, I don't know. I think what I'm doing here is bad, but I don't know how to control it.
Right, and the daughter recognizes that she does need some help.
Yeah.
And, it could be anxiety related. It could be related to some other kind of mental health issue she's having. And so, at least the daughter has enough self-awareness to recognize there's something unhealthy going on. But the mom, it's you are invading your child's privacy to such a high degree. I wouldn't recommend invading your 14-year-old's privacy this much, but she's 24 years old.
Yeah, this whole situation is messed up. I think we're...
Oh, he froze.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know what it is, Amber. Anytime it's with you, it freezes, and I don't get it. I don't have this problem.
I'm so beautiful, the camera just breaks. It can't handle my beauty.
I think that's probably the case. I'm going to say bad luck.
Bad luck, Brian?
No, bad luck, Amber. All right. Where were we? We're having technical difficulties. Every single time Amber's on, we have technical difficulties. So, I don't know. I don't have these problems when Amber's not around.
Bad luck, Brian.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think we wrapped it up pretty well here.
Yeah, we're ready to move on to the next one, I think.
All right.
Our next story is, am I the jerk for writing unflattering characters based off of people I know? I'm an author. If it matters, I'm 20. The people in the scenario are around the same age as well. My first published novel came out recently, and I drew a decent amount from my own life. The main character is in many ways like me, and there are several characters based off of people I know IRL. I portrayed the derivative characters realistically. I didn't demonize them, but I don't shy away from their flaws either. This goes for all the characters, including the one based on me. For example, the character based off of a friend of mine that's an aspiring politician. The character is a decently intelligent and charismatic guy, but is incredibly narcissistic to the point of thinking he's a genius that can outmaneuver anyone, talk his way out of anything, etc. As a result, he can come off very arrogant in a way that's comical. As a sophomore in college, he talks about when I'm president. Also very entitled and childish due to being spoiled his entire childhood. He thinks if he wants something, he's automatically entitled to have it and is prone to throwing fits and panicking when things don't go his way in life. But on the positive side, he is, as I've said, intelligent, charismatic, driven, and does genuinely care and want to make a difference. The character based on my on-off again, X. This character is portrayed as to a large extent a good person, compassionate, friendly, always trying to help, and intelligent when it comes to book smarts, but also incredibly naive, idealistic, insecure, and manipulative without even realizing. Dreaming of an unattainable, perfect love, where a guy would be 100% in love with everything about her, and dumping every guy that doesn't match that. Being obsessed with her lousy ex because she felt he was the only person to understand her, using people for validation and then playing victim, etc. You get the idea. People are mad at me for portraying them negatively. It's not my fault that's how they are as people. What they're seeing is the truth. They wouldn't be mad if they didn't know deep down I was right, and I just showed it to them. Am I the jerk?
That was an interesting one. I think as a writer, you're trying to create an interesting story. And it's okay to base characters off of people that you know to some degree. If you're making, the whole cast of your characters in your book, every single one, someone you know, then I think that says something kind of deeper about your book itself.
Yeah, well, as someone who is a writer, this is one of the big no-nos of writing, is writing people into your book as they are. Mm-hmm. First of all, from a legal standpoint, it's a really bad idea because if people can identify them, then you can be sued for, slander or libel, whichever one is the one that applies in this case. And it's just not a good practice. It's fine to draw inspiration from your life, but the characters should all be their own people. You shouldn't just pluck people out of your life and pop them into a story.
Yeah.
If you're doing that, you might as well make it a biography and, label it as such. But your fictional characters should be fictional, and you can, of course, take traits from those individual people like you can make an aspiring politician, but don't make them exactly like your friend.
Yeah.
Make them different, and give them different traits. They shouldn't read like this so that anyone reading your work is going to read themselves into it.
Yeah,
or they'd have to read really hard.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I was saying. And I think that, it's okay to draw inspiration. Life imitates art imitates life. One of the two, right? And, I think that that's fine. And it's okay to make characters and figure out what makes an interesting character, in a book. But to mirror someone directly like this, I think is just, it's kind of in poor taste in a lot of ways because it makes it so that you're we're mirrors unto our own selves, unto our own universes. And, like, the way I see someone is going to be completely different than how someone else sees someone. And you only get a very small, fragment of what someone looks like or how someone is based off of your very narrow interactions with them. And so I think, like, keeping that in mind, if you try to portray someone, you're only ever going to get a very thin slice of them, I think.
And your lens is going to be colored. Like, this person acknowledges that there are people they don't particularly like, So, and one thing to keep in mind is if you are writing and you have a character who you feel is a lot like someone in real life, let them read this character before you go to print. Like, if you really, really, really are insistent on drawing from your own life, then make sure the people who you're basing this off are fine. Because if people are actually okay with it, then it's not going to run you into legal trouble or ruffle any feathers. So if you really, really want to portray people, ask them beforehand. But as a general rule, like, like Brian was saying, your perceptions of people are always going to be, your own. You're only seeing so many sides of them. People are far more multifaceted than you could ever see.
What do you think of his description of his ex-girlfriend?
I think that
I think it says more about
him than it does about her, yes. And I am very curious about how he portrayed his protagonist. I'm wondering how flawed this protagonist really is, or if he's just this poor man who these women
I think he's just misunderstood.
I think he's
misunderstood in his own book. And I think that's what's the male version of a Mary Jane? I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's the Mary Janes I think that's what they are. Mary Sues? Mary Sues. Mary Sues are essentially a character who is perfect in every way, and it's like an idealized version of yourself. And so I'm imagining that he probably wrote an idealized version of himself as the heroic main character here, who has to contend with all of his bad friends.
Well, and that is the big problem with writing characters based on yourself. You don't want to do self-inserts. Like, I draw heavily from my life and my experiences. So in the book I'm writing right now, my principal protagonist has really bad anxiety and she has panic attacks. And so I draw some of those things from me, and she also is socially awkward. So she's got my social awkwardness. But you don't want to, she's not like a more perfect version of me. And that's the big thing is people tend to, when you're doing this, you can err into just making an idealized version of yourself. And that's what it sounds like he probably did here. Like, he's like, oh yeah, all the characters have flaws, but then he doesn't tell us what kind of flaws his protagonist has.
Yeah, all the characters in my books are more idealized versions of myself, and they just interact with themselves between me. I just interact with myself.
Yeah, I know.
Our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Rescinding My Offer for My Daughter to Move In? My daughter is 39 and she lives one state over. She decided to move across there because she was following her boyfriend, the father of her 4-year-old daughter, who promised he would marry her once he got his big dream job. Now, her house that she bought with her boyfriend is in foreclosure because she woke up like a year ago to find that her boyfriend, who ended up doing nothing but spend their money, had just skipped town. She has been out of work for a while. She says she wants to get a job near her hometown and begged me for a place to stay. She was begging and crying, and that kept me on the phone long enough to finally give in and say yes. However, my girlfriend, who lives with me mostly on the weekends because she has 2 more years before her son leaves the house, was listening to my end of the conversation from outside the door, and she came in and asked me what was going on. I explained my daughter's situation, and my girlfriend absolutely flipped out. She said she's been done with the drama of having a 4-year-old kid for the last 12 years, and that she will not live with a stranger in my house. She said my daughter is obviously really bad at making decisions and brought this all on herself, and that as a mother, she shouldn't feel entitled to handouts. I tried to quell the argument and reach some kind of compromise, but my girlfriend can be the type of person who can argue with you as long as there is any semblance of conversation going on between the two of us. My girlfriend screamed that she was not going to deal with somebody who is the poster child of baby daddy drama, and that she will die on this hill. I finally gave in and called my daughter and said that I'd help her find a job, but she needed to take care of everything else by herself. When my daughter protested, I told her that she brought being a single mom on herself. Am I the jerk?
Yes. And victim blaming, too.
Well, the odd thing is, like, I don't think the daughter wants to live with them indefinitely.
No.
It sounds like she just wants to move in temporarily long enough to kind of get settled back on and situation on her own feet. And, like, she just went through a nasty breakup where her boyfriend drained their bank account and then ditched. So this whole situation is because the man she was, living with is slime.
Yeah. And, I mean, they had a 4-year-old child together.
Yeah.
Like, it makes perfect sense, like, that it's really hard to see people for who they are sometimes until they just, like, rush off and leave you with all kinds of debt. So, it sounds like, she had this impression that they were going to be a happy couple together and they just had to work out some problems, and it just kind of blew up in her face. It's not necessarily anything she could have seen. And a lot of people, even if things aren't perfect, will try to work things out for the kids. And whether that's right or wrong, it's still really hard to fault someone for trying to stick together with this person.
Well, exactly. And I mean, I think that in this case, like, again, I understand the girlfriend not necessarily liking the situation of living with a 4-year-old and a single mom, but I also, like, she's only there on the weekends.
Right. Like, it's not like she even lives there full time.
And, like, how long is she going to live here? Like, 6 months at worst? And I mean, if she's interested in moving back here, then I imagine she's going to, find a job, get settled in, and, try, getting everything worked out so that she can find a place of her own, because I don't imagine she wants to live with her dad forever.
Right. I mean, not many people do want to live with their parents indefinitely.
And it sounds like the girlfriend doesn't plan on living with them permanently for another 2
more
years. And if she's not gone in 2 years, then maybe they can have another talk and another discussion about her living there at that point in time. But
yeah,
I mean, I don't know. I just think that this is all around not very good.
I agree. I think that the attitude of both the dad and his girlfriend is completely despicable. Like, oh, you're a mom, you shouldn't ask for handouts. Like, she has a kid she's looking after. She's probably just trying to make it so they don't end up homeless.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't sound like she has a ton of options right now, and I don't think there's anything wrong with asking your parents to move back in, if they can support that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to let others see what my wife looks like right now? I'm a 42-year-old male. My wife is a 42-year-old female, and she has been getting treatment for Cushing's syndrome. In terms of her visible symptoms, it was a quick onset regarding worsening redness and puffiness in her face, the fat buildup in the back of her neck, buffalo hump. She has spent the past almost 2 years crying about how disgusting and depressed she felt and how her outward symptoms were showing little to no improvement. I've canceled a lot of our plans together, basically anything that involves going out in public, and my wife ended up getting another job because she was tired of customers staring. My wife is friends with an employee who is basically the head of marketing for the business I work for. The employee emailed both my wife and I to say that they had asked employees to send in holiday pictures to put up on the business's social media and website albums, but barely anybody ended up doing so this year. She said she'd love to have some of us. We take Christmas and New Year's photos every year, but this year our holidays were pretty stressful for my wife, and she was particularly depressed when we were taking the photos because her symptoms were particularly bad. She told me during the pictures that she felt ugly. When I got home, my wife was scrolling through the pictures and had picked out 3 that had all 6 of us, we have 4 kids, in it. I'm not going to mince words here. After looking at the photos, I cringed. In nearly all the pictures we took, all her outward symptoms were apparent. I have been with the business since I was 27, and if anybody from the business saw pictures in the company albums of me and my wife from then and at events in our early 30s, they would have thought she was absolutely gorgeous. Actually, one coworker saw a picture of us taken at a holiday party around 5 years ago and said my wife was so picture perfect. My company has quite a gossip mill, And I don't want catty coworkers to talk about what happened to my wife, either behind my back or, God forbid, strike up a conversation about it somehow, some way. I thought that if my wife continues to be diligent in her treatment, perhaps this will start going away and we can take pictures that we can both be proud of in the future. So I reminded my wife, she herself has said she felt like a hippo during pictures, and that she always used to post and then repost stuff on social media before all this, so what's to say she won't regret this too? My wife asked if I was ashamed of her, and I told her to just please forget about submitting anything this year. My wife stormed away, and now my older 2 kids are calling me a jerk because I made their mom cry. Am I the jerk?
Well, I mean, he was just looking out for her.
Oh my goodness.
Just looking out for her well-being. I mean, he wanted to make sure that no one was going to talk badly about her behind her back.
Yeah, heaven forbid they talk badly about him and it reflects on him.
Yeah.
I mean, if people are going to be so shallow that they're going to be, like, talking badly about your wife with a medical condition, then, like, what does it matter what they think? They're not good people.
Yeah, well, she has a medical condition, and it sounds like this has been really hard and traumatic on her, and it's been something that she's been trying to get used to with and whatnot. And it sounds like she really wanted to put herself out there by submitting these photos, because if she was uncomfortable with it, then she wouldn't have.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have picked out the pictures at all.
Yeah, and if she had not wanted to, then you would support her, that would have been fine. But
Yeah.
she went to the trouble of picking out some pictures she was fine with.
Yeah.
And you just vetoed it and were like, no, we can't do this. You don't look good enough.
Yeah.
Like, he's so much too concerned about, like, the letter is just dripping with how concerned he is about her appearance.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I had this hot wife back in the day. I can't have people, like, wondering what happened to my wife.
Yeah. Well, and it's so shallow. I think that's just terrible.
And who reminds someone that they said they felt like a hippo? Like, that's the kind of thing you say to your partner that you never expect them to, like, parrot it back at you.
Yeah, that you don't want them using it back at you. It's like, no, don't do that. That's really bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah, overall, I think that what he did here is just completely, a jerk type thing to do. And I think that he really, while he claims that he's looking out for his wife's best interests, and he has his wife's best interests at hand, he doesn't want them gossiping behind her back. It seems more like he doesn't want it to reflect badly on him, because he's afraid everyone's going to be like, oh, he's the guy with the wife who's now has this medical condition.
Yeah, well, it's very much about his own self-image and not his wife's. Because again, it's not his wife who's taking issues with this. It sounds like she was okay with this. She went and picked out specific pictures that she liked. And it sounds like he was hoping she'd pick ones that she wasn't in.
Oh, you think that's the case?
Well, because he says she picked 3 that had all 6 of us. And it sounds like he was kind of like hoping that she would just pick ones where we were just him and the kid that should be too self-conscious to have herself in there.
Well, wouldn't that raise questions?
It might.
It's better to not be in the pictures than to raise other questions.
Well,
it's better for the company to think that you had a secret divorce than that your wife has a medical condition.
Yeah, well, I could be reading too much into that one, but I think where he said specifically that she picked ones that had all 6 of us in it, and it sounded kind of like he was like shocked that she picked ones that had all of them in it. Like,
yeah,
she's your wife, dude.
Yeah, don't do this. That's all the time we have for today, folks. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks to Amber for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
She's gonna start doing some different stuff on her channel here soon. I think we're trying to do a second recording of us, kind of in this environment. And, I don't know, we'll probably be posting them on her regular Wednesdays. So probably something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
So we'll see how it all works, playing it by ear. She's been super busy, but, yeah, so far so good. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I guess we'll see you all tomorrow.